up next joining us is Julia Campbell of JC Social Marketing. Julia, thanks for joining us.
Yay. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
A bridge speaker.
There you
Yes. Bridge Tech and Bridge. I'm
Yeah.
doing 2 sessions. I'm super
Double
excited.
duty.
go. A bridge between speakers right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll be in DC the 31st and August 1st, July 31st, August 1st.
Awesome. Julia, a lot of your focus on social media, social marketing. So I'm just curious, like social media, it's become ubiquitous with everyday life for all of us. And when we think
For
of
better
it,
or worse.
For better or worse
worse.
is an
Yeah.
excellent way to put it. But thinking of that through, the context of donors, us as marketers, we tend to struggle with keeping up and staying out front of some of the latest trends.
Mhm.
So when it comes to social media, what are some of the trends you're seeing this year and, in the months ahead?
Mm-hmm. There's quite a few. So I think the number one trend is just that we still need to be focused on the human-centered content. So we see AI as a trend, and actually I'm at Bridge Tech, Josh Hirsch and I are teaching a session on how to create social media content using Chat GPT and generative AI. But the human-centered focus, so there has to be a human managing your social media. You have to see faces and stories and people. I think that is going to become even more essential, as you can see across the internet. We're looking at a lot of just generated like garbage, basically. And I can tell at this point when something is 100% written by ChatGPT. I'm sure you can too, just because I'm familiar with it. But having that human connection, and of course, building trust is another huge, not really a trend, but something that I think people should really focus their social media content on. Something I've been seeing, and it's been happening for a few years now, is that people and our donors are not going to social media as much to connect with people they know, to connect with friends and family. It used to be like you got on Facebook and you connected with like your high school friends or whoever, and you got on Instagram and you followed a bunch of your neighbors. But now we're using social media sites more like search engines, and we're discovering brand new things that we're interested in on these platforms. So it's really important for nonprofits to understand that people that come to us might not know what we do. Like we can't assume that they know who we are and what we do. So we have to be really on top of, explaining our mission and not thinking that we're saying the same thing too many times. You can never say the same thing too many times, and focusing on more like high level content than in the weeds content. Influencer marketing, of course, is really huge only because people tend to trust their networks and they tend to trust celebrities. They would trust Taylor Swift more than they'll trust, you and me. So how can you figure out how to leverage these kinds of relationships, not even with huge influencers, like little influencers in your community, people that have followings, like even a city council member or a very influential business person in your community, or even someone that's just a really, really active on social media that has a big network. How can you work with them to build your audience and get in front of new people? So those are just a few of what I'm seeing. I mean, there's so many things going on.
It's so interesting, the influencer part of the conversation. And, it's not too far removed from how many organizations think about people who sit on their board. They are
Right.
centers of influence.
They're the OG influencers.
That's it, right? Like, so it's really about understanding and helping them unlock their social media presence, or leverage it so that it ties back to the alignment in the values that you have with those influencers. How do you think about influencer strategies for those apostles and ambassadors that are representing nonprofits versus, could be an and or, creator strategies for the nonprofit executive who is leaning into social media authenticity in their own content? Like, how do you balance those two when you're talking to organizations?
I think you have to focus on the latter. You have to focus on the creator strategy first. So I do a lot of work with foundations and academic research institutions, and their primary focus is really visibility and thought leadership, like becoming the go-to resource in the community for whatever it might be. So the Boston Foundation, they're releasing a report on the workforce in Boston, and students, are they prepared for the workforce when they exit college? And so we were talking about marketing strategies, and of course they're like, oh, we're going to post the thing on LinkedIn and we're going to post it on Instagram. And I said, no, but then people don't have the context. So have the executive director, even if you're uncomfortable on camera, make a video and say, this is what I'm seeing in my work, and this is the context for this report, and write a blog post. And then you can, of course, chop it up into 10 million social media posts. You can make reels from it. You can do a LinkedIn Live that's just a Q&A. You don't have to prepare a whole speech. But think about how you can leverage the executive director, the board chair, even, a person that is a volunteer to be sort of the spokesperson for your organization, because that's going to really influence a lot of people's hearts and minds, much more than just simply posting a link. With influencer marketing, I tend to think of that as people that have an audience that you don't have already. So it would be a person that has access to maybe a younger audience or more diverse audience, or an audience in a different part of the city. So when I think of influencer marketing, I see it as not preaching to the choir. It's more like, how can we connect with people that even have their tentacles out even further? They have wider networks, people that we might not even have thought of reaching, or we might have had trouble reaching. So that's how I think you can balance the two. I think both are important for any kind of visibility strategy.
I absolutely love that you said get the creator part right first, and completely agree with you. That's a little bit of a red thread throughout the compass in and of itself. Getting the first things first, right? Getting those things lined up, and the opportunity to really unlock authenticity for a cause by having a person speaking about it through very, very simple things. Like what we're doing even right now, Julia, this is not that complicated. We know each other. We're having a real conversation about something.
Yeah.
And so
exactly.
It's that same principle, but echoing missions and causes and showing firsthand the work that you're doing. Man, that's such an incredible opportunity for organizations to lean into this year.
And you could even invite someone that's much more comfortable, someone like me or someone like you, Justin, who's comfortable being a moderator, who's comfortable on camera. So you don't have to just sort of have the executive director kind of sitting there reading from a script. I mean, there's a lot of creative ways that nonprofits can get the message out there. I think the other thing that I'm seeing, though, that I hope nonprofits are understanding, is I don't think we're communicating nearly enough. I think we're still thinking like, oh, posting once a day is too much. I'm going to overwhelm my audience. When if you really look at the Hootsuite nonprofit social media trends report, I can post a link in the chat. The algorithms are absolutely atrocious for organic reach. We're not inundating our audience. In fact, they're forgetting us because we're not even reaching them and they're not seeing us. So we do have to think of more and more and more creative ways that we can just fit into the feed with what they already see, and fit into their daily life and still be relevant in that way. But we are not inundating our audiences. Every single person on this, I will tell you, they're not getting all your posts. They're not seeing even probably half your posts. So post more, post quality over quantity.
Right. I was thinking maybe 10 to 20% of your audience might see a given post, right? I mean,
yeah,
the algorithms suppress it, but
that's great. 10 to 20% is really good.
You're doing great. I want to go back a little bit to the part you were talking about and this idea of getting the people at your organization and activating them. I've been thinking a lot about that trend of pulling down these walls of the organization. We think about 10, 20 years ago, it's this one-sided communication of pushing things out, and now social media allows this, but I don't know that organizations are doing enough of creating this like a two-way conversation and having a back and forth and being social on social media.
Yep, absolutely. And this is because one time, 1 year ago, they posted a question and it was to crickets, right? And so now they think, oh, that's never going to work. I'm never going to do that again. It's sort of like if I just ate one salad and didn't lose 5 pounds and I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to ever eat a salad again. I mean, that's what it is. It's consistency. You've got to be consistent. And if you've never asked questions of your audience before or interacted in that way, it will seem strange at first because it's a new thing that you're doing. But I really encourage nonprofits to be posting polls, to be posting questions. What did I just see the other day? An organization that I love. I always shout them out. They're called Amira Incorporated. They work with survivors of sex trafficking, and they never share names and details, but they always share stories from like a third person perspective. And then they write, shout out to Sophie, like name is changed, in the comments, give her some words of hope. I always do it when I see that. I always do it because I know for a fact they do give the words to the actual person, but also you'll see all these comments of people that are like, Sophie, you've got this, like you're strong, you're worthy, you matter. And that kind of community building is just invaluable. People, they feel great about doing that. And then they see all the other comments. And then of course it's the engagement, but they've worked on that strategy for a long time and they're consistent about doing that. So don't just post once. If no one responds, you got to keep going, keep going. You got to keep eating that salad every day. You got to keep going on that walk every day. And it's the consistency piece that's going to win the race.
You just hinted at something else that might be a massive unlock. And in so many ways in which nonprofits communicate, we think about one individual that we're communicating with, that we're sending an email to one individual. Yes, we might be doing it in mass, but in our mind, we're writing to one person, right? Same thing for any of the mail pieces that we're dropping. And you just hinted at something that is truly powerful and unique for social media. And it is one of the rarefied places that you can create that sort of community where others see others' participation in the cause.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Think about the communities that you participate in yourself on Facebook or on Instagram. And there can be very niche communities, but immediately when you go there, this is for me. These are my people. Or maybe this is not for me and these are not my people. And then you leave and that's fine. But nonprofits try so hard to be all things to all people. And then they fail to be anything to anyone really, because you have to know as much like who you are and what you stand for. And you can't be scared of saying what you stand for. And you can't be scared of taking a stand. And you can't be scared of really saying what your values, your ethics, like what you really believe in and what you think is right and what you think is wrong. And I'm not talking about being offensive or, controversial for controversy's sake, but so much of the content I see around these tough issues, it's like, no, take a stand. It's like Invisible People. Mark Horvath, he takes a stand on homelessness and people experiencing homelessness constantly. And it's inspiring and it's, it rubs some people the wrong way. But the people and the community he's created are so passionate around this issue because they know he's not stripping it down. They know he's not like dumbing it down. He's not sugarcoating it. He's really giving them the real story. So we need to get out of our own way and stop overthinking. I'm the queen of overthinking, like the queen of like overthinking things. Everything needs to be perfect before it's done. But we really need to start just being more real and kind of really stepping out of our perfect little bubble comfort zone. And everything doesn't have to be perfect on social. In fact, people don't really like perfect content anymore on social media. They expect it from celebrities. They don't expect it from organizations.
Polished,
Right. So my little soapbox about that.
Hey, you're
speaking right to our one of our beacons. Be you. That's one of our 4 beacons. It's about being yourself and aligning your values and letting people know where you stand on things, right?
Exactly. And it's how I feel about unsubscribes or people writing to me on Facebook or Instagram. Like, I'm not for everybody, and that's fine. And I'm lucky that I just really don't care if I'm not for everyone. Like, I want to help as many people as possible. But if people unsubscribe to your email, if people unfollow you, if people write you messages, I would just take it and like sort of like bless and release. If it's a constructive piece of criticism, then
Sure.
fine. But if it's
Yeah.
just, oh, I didn't like this photo you posted. Okay, well, I'm not going to please everybody today. So
Yeah.
I'll try to please
strain it
more people tomorrow.
for the grain of truth, right? Strain it for the grain of truth, but don't let that be the barrier for you being authentic
Yes.
to your cause and your mission in showing up and help facilitating community on social.
Right. Because think of how many people loved it and didn't write to you, or liked it and didn't write to you. It's that one person that you got pushback from that's going to stick in your brain. And I understand that. But I love that. Strain it for the grain of truth. I love that. I'm gonna steal that.
You can definitely steal that.
So many
Awesome.
nuggets, so many great nuggets already
Yay.
in our first hour here. Julia, thank you so much for joining us.
Yay. Thanks for having me.